Welcome everyone. We're glad to have you here for our second episode of Thriving at Juniata.
This week went fast. Very, very fast.
This week went very fast, and in part that's because Diavion, what was Monday?
Monday was Mountain Day.
Mountain Day! Oh my gosh! The surprise came quickly about 5 a.m. I got my text.
I got my air horn at 5:30.
An air horn?
That was a good time.
There was no air horn in my neighborhood. How did you get an air horn?
My good old RAs and CA in the building were very loud. I don't even know who gave Soraya an air horn. But
somebody gave Soraya an air horn?
It was a mistake.
That sounds like a mistake.
She called my name out specifically when she was going down the hall. I felt so singled
Were
out.
there pots and pans? I'm told that there are pots and pans sometimes.
Well, I was still slightly delirious, so there may have been. All I heard was Soraya call out my name.
Did you hear any rumors? Was there any sense in your mind that Mountain Day was Monday on Sunday or
No
Saturday?
one thought it would be on a Monday. I certainly didn't think it was
Actually, I think it's the first time in
6 years
recent history. I couldn't find anyone on campus who remembered a Monday Mountain Day.
Tasia told me it was 6 years. This Monday was like the same date 6 years ago that Mountain Day was.
Wow.
So they decided it.
Well, it's right in the window. If you look at historical data, it's right in the window of time when it usually happens. And it was a beautiful day. Students were out at the lake. I heard I was out of town. I was traveling.
Yeah.
And that broke my heart. It's the first Mountain Day I've ever missed.
I went there and I was looking for him, and I was very disappointed that he wasn't there.
It broke my heart. But I saw pictures. I saw people swimming. I saw people board surfing something. Mm-hmm. There were people in canoes. There was food. It was sunshine. It was just perfect.
I don't get in lakes. I don't do lakes. I'm sorry. I'm a pool person.
And then yesterday was Storming of the Arch.
You know, I was asleep for that.
You didn't see Storming of the Arch?
I didn't. I was taking a nap. I'm sorry.
It was like back-to-back tradition days, and I believe that the arch was successfully defended this year.
Mm-hmm. Well, it only lasted like 20 minutes. I was very disappointed.
It goes quickly. It doesn't take long to storm.
I thought it was like a longer process. I was walking towards the arch, and then I saw my friend who's on the women's rugby team. Uh-huh. I said, "Where are you going?" It's storming.
She said, "We're done."
She said, "It's over." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, now I'm hungry."
Well, there it is. It does bring out a hunger.
Mm-hmm.
A hunger. Well, I am glad that it has been such a week. There's been a lot going on. And in addition to some of the fun and traditions, students, a lot of them are experiencing their first tests, their first papers. We've got the pressure of kind of a rich social environment and also now kind of some academic stress. I'm sure you've experienced a little bit of that.
2 quizzes, Calculus 2 and chemistry, integrated chemistry.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
It wasn't too bad.
No? You don't feel like you're going strong?
Yeah. My chemistry quiz had one question that got me upset. I talked to my teacher about it. I mess with him now in class. He appreciates it. So, yeah, he tricked me up with one question. With no idea it was supposed to be on there. I got every other question right.
There you go.
And of course, it had a significant amount of points weighted on that question.
Well, I'm sure I would not do well on any sort of chemistry exam. Well, like I said, I'm excited that you're here with us as we catch up about the week that we've had. And in case you're new to the webinar, my name is Matthew Damshutter.
I'm Davion Clayton.
Davion Clayton.
His intro is very long. I had to cut it off. I'm sorry.
I'm the Dean of Students. I'm the Vice President for Student Life. And Davion is one of my favorite students, a sophomore here at Juniata. And when we conceived of this podcast or webinar, really to talk to families about the experience of students and some of the guidance that families might provide to their students from a distance, Davion was the first student I thought of to sort of sit with me and talk through some of the obstacles and some of the successes, that you saw as a first-year student as you became a sophomore.
It was I was very honored. Like I said before, I didn't think that I would be the first person Usually my energy on a daily basis is just to make other people feel better. I didn't necessarily think
Something
it
you do
would
well.
it would well, thank you. I didn't think it would propel me to stardom on a web show.
You've propelled him to stardom just by being a part of this. That said, we invite your questions. We don't want it to just sort of be us talking with our guests. We really want to engage with you and help you have the information that you can use to best answer the questions and inquiries of your students to help understand the context of learning here at Juniata, the way the social and the academic are integrated in support of students, and the resources that are abundant here that students can access as they find their way. We also want to talk about some of the amazing programming and what I think of as educational plus stuff that takes place on campus. And to that end, I was just at a program on campus called a Mokita Dialogue, and it was on stress and anxiety. Stress and anxiety are kind of ramping up. We're going to be talking about that a little bit on campus, and so the Mokita dialogue is grounded in this sort of word from Papua New Guinea, Mokita, which is a known truth that is unspoken, kind of the elephant in the room.
Mm.
And so in these programs, we talk about things that we all know to be true and sort of norm that experience and then provide students with some resources and support around it. And tonight was around stress and anxiety, something we know that many students experience and all too few are willing to sort of talk about openly and sometimes to seek support around.
I think I would have benefited from this talk. As much as I think I have it figured out, it was just a long day for me. I This was my Wednesday is my long day, so I finished chem lab around 3:30, 4 o'clock, and then I knew I had this tonight, so I got my homework done so that I could eat with enough time to eat comfortably and then come here. And so yeah, I missed out.
Well, we'll have other Mokita dialogues. To that end, though, we have invited our first guest, Jonathan Reveley Cohen, one of our Juniata counselors, to join us. And so I'm going to invite Jonathan in to sort of pull a chair around. We'll kind of crowd in here in the webinar space.
All right, I'm going to see myself on camera here and say hello to everyone.
We look so good. We look so good.
There we go.
And so Jonathan is, like I said, our counselor here in the Glazer Counseling Services, and just an exceptional person, a Juniata alum, and is serving kind of as the lead in that space, helping to craft a program where students can feel supported and encouraged, and as if they have the resources and support that they need to kind of make their, their daily experience successful. And so we've invited you really to help us talk about, the experience of transition to the college, and then also, some of the ways that we help students gain capacity and to be successful at managing themselves and coping. And so to that end, Jonathan, I'm sure that, without, divulging that you see clients, who deal with stress and anxiety, that has to be a reason that a lot of students come to the counseling services. Do we see that in our general population a considerable amount?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Especially at the beginning of the semester, I think that's when you're starting to see a lot of the people that are coming to the campus start to experience that stress or that difference, whether it's coming from off a summer break or first-time students. There's a lot of different things they're adjusting to. So, I mean, it could be course load, it could be new people, it could be new environment. Any of these things, new living situation. I often bring up something that's kind of unknown, but if a refrigerator is usually within a room's reach, and now it's not even within a building's reach, as far as having something to eat late at night, it throws people. It's the small things that add up and add to that stress. And we do talk to a lot of people about how to manage that and how to overcome different things or where to go, because I might not know the answer, but I'm usually pretty good at finding somebody that does.
Yeah. I mean, as you think about the ways that students begin to balance their lives, some of it is their personal space and the control that they may have in a different way around the day-to-day tasks, that they encounter. Some of it is transition to academics and sort of classroom expectations. Some is around roommates. Some is around feelings of belonging. There are a lot of different stressors, and students may feel isolated in their own distress. What can, parents or families do if their student appears to be stressed out or feeling some anxiety in one of those ways to help normalize that and then encourage the student to reach out to find a solution?
Well, I think one of the first things, and it's probably the easiest thing, is acknowledging that no student is really alone in that. Although every student that is experiencing that typically feels alone in that. You go out on the quad, you look on social media, you go to classes, and you tend to see everybody seeming to function and seeming to, everything's going well, except internally it's not. Um,
Mm,
but we're all also doing the same thing. We're externally we appear like we're going to class, we're going generally to go to our meals, we're going to meet with friends, but we just don't feel necessarily connected. And there's a lot of students that um, generally feel a bit better just acknowledging with another student, hey, I don't feel great right now. I don't feel like things have been working out the way I expected them to. And oftentimes they're not, because there's so many unexpected things that happen, which is exciting.
right.
But it's also kind of challenging, especially if we're experiencing something unexpected that is not pleasant or not exciting. It's something that's more challenging in that regard. So um, we come together with groups at times, even in the Glazer Center, to talk about what it's like to get used to college. And
Mm,
we have students that are coming from large cities at times, and we have students that are coming from even more rural areas, which might be surprising to some people.
Mhm.
But Huntington is a vibrant, busy place for a lot of people, and so it's somewhat unexpected what might be challenging. And I've heard students say, hey, just talking with someone else saying, hey, I'm going through this too, relieves a lot of that burden, because that that sense that, oh, I'm the only one dealing with this,
right.
that can be such an overwhelming thought, because there's also what follows that is like, I must be doing something wrong if I'm the only
Right.
one. And they're not. It's a natural part of getting used to what it is to be taking a next step, into a college career, into a new environment. And I mean, certainly we see people individually, but I've heard students talk like, oh, I can't wait to go to Lobster Fest, which was our beginning of the year organization, kind of buffet where all the clubs you can enjoy.
Club and activities
Yeah,
fair.
and lobster. So hopefully you like the shellfish, but I mean, there's also students like, hey, I missed the first meeting of a club. How do I get to the next one? And the campus is somewhat small enough or intimate enough that someone that's going to that club is likely going to be in your circle. But even if not, you can always talk to staff. You can talk to a TA who's a class member, might be teaching a course, your RA, your CAs, and things like that. And everybody is interested in everybody doing well here. And so um, taking those first couple maybe nervous steps towards asking for some kind of help, um, but not even in the form of help. It's like, hey, I missed this meeting. How do I get to that? And someone might not know, but they will certainly know someone who does.
Yeah.
um, and I think just getting out of that getting out of that space of like, I'm the only one who's dealing with this is the biggest piece. um, and
And
however,
sometimes disclosing that just to one other person opens the door to somebody feeling a little more normal and, or hearing a solution. I'm sure you sort of see that in the environment. Students who, they self-disclose a little bit, or, even sometimes an RA will approach a student if we hear about or come to knowledge, maybe they're struggling socially or maybe they're struggling academically. The RA can sometimes reach out and say, you know what, I had a challenging time in chemistry, and that sort of invites the student to say, "Oh my God, I feel like I'm underwater in chemistry."
I just had a situation like that yesterday. I have an issue with like seeing someone that's not having a good time, and I kind of make their issue my issue, and I like have to solve it.
And we
right then
appreciate
and
that.
there. It drives me insane because I'll try to diffuse the situation and I'll try to empathize and I'll give them a scenario in which I may have experienced the same thing. And then most of the time, just leveling with the person makes them feel a little more at ease because it's a situation that they realize doesn't just happen to them.
Mhm.
Um,
It's interesting. We have this program on campus, and I don't know if you remember this last year, Jonathan, but Professor Roth, it's called Who's Your Neighbor? And
Sure.
faculty and staff members sort of shared their story, how they came, to their work or their passion and, what's important to them, observations from life. And Professor Kim Roth, one of the sort of residual messages that she shared is that people compare their insides to other people's outsides. And that, social media compounds this because people only share the good things in their, Facebook feed. Students aren't on Facebook, their Snapchat, their whatever,
I'm a
their
Facebook person.
Instagram.
I'm a Facebook person.
You haven't friended me. Anyway,
Oh, I'm sorry.
but this idea that students see these curated highlight reels that other people are, sort of projecting, and that's what we're told to do and how to do it. But that social media becomes a challenge for students in this kind of space because it suggests that we're not good enough or sufficient enough, and that struggle isn't, kind of, I don't know, normal.
Well, and that's such an interesting thing. I actually remember seeing Kim Roth's "Who's My Neighbor" presentation, so I know exactly where you're coming from. And the confusing thing or the interesting thing is sometimes acknowledging or not focusing on the curation of what's going well or presenting that. Just acknowledging that piece that's difficult is also what dispels the difficulty, which is it's such a fascinating thing, really, when you think about how much we try. And I put on a nice shirt to be here, and I think it's nice, at least.
Me
now
too.
now I'm wondering, is this a good shirt? So, but saying like, well, maybe things aren't going well, and just saying, okay, that's where I am now. I can move out of where I am to where I want to be,
Mhm.
because if we're focused on where we wish we were, then we can't get out of where we are. And where we are is, honestly, it's a great place, but it can be a difficult place at times. So it's both. It's confusing when what we're expecting is not what we're experiencing.
That's interesting. I never thought like that. Whereas I'm usually a person that focuses on the end of the tunnel and getting there. And from time to time, I like to dress up a certain way because that's the kind of person I want to be when I'm have a job and stuff on a daily basis. I like to dress with a certain sort of pride in who I am. I know sometimes it's good, as you say, to focus on where you are as opposed to where you're going to be. I never thought about it like that.
Yeah. Well, we talked a little bit about resources on campus. So there are clubs and organizations where students can find belonging. There are faculty members who are holding office hours and can provide support. We have Quest, which is our academic success center, and students can go to sort of take advantage of peer tutoring and some academic coaching. The dean of students office, where students can come to get help. We also have some mental health resources and supports on campus. Can you talk a little bit about the places and spaces students might find, if they're in distress, a person that they can go and sort of talk to and problem solve with?
Yeah, well, when you're talking about the counseling center, for instance, the Glazer Center for Counseling Services is located just adjacent to the health center. We have counseling staff that is available for individual sessions. We do form also group process based on need or what we think might benefit students on the campus. As far as resources, the campus itself is quite a resource. I mean, the community strives to be really tight knit. I mean, I think that's what draws people here, and people really generally want to fulfill that promise. Some of the other things that we do from the Glazer Center, for instance, is we do network with athletics. We're networking with the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, the Office of Prevention of Interpersonal Violence. So we we collaborate a lot because I'm not going to see every single student in the course of a semester and understand what everybody needs. But if I'm talking with enough people, and our department is collaborating with enough people, then we are reaching all the students, so that everybody is, having the experience they want or overcoming the difficulties that they might be having. And sometimes that um, is mild, and sometimes it, is a bit more strained. And oftentimes counseling is seen as a resource where it's like, oh, okay, if it's more extreme, then I need a counselor. And we can certainly meet the needs of students that have something that's a bit more strained or a bit more overwhelming. But we're also there to meet students that they're struggling with anxiety for maybe their first test,
Mhm.
or at my high school, I was always able to check every single one of my grades in my classes, and I come here and I'm not going to really know until I get certain things back. Um, so there's some of those little changes are also worth talking about, worth processing, because we tend to be solution focused, um, and work through things as they're coming along. Um, and as far as um, meeting the students what they need, we're very good at doing that. We do that all the time.
Jonathan, you are just tremendous as a resource, as a colleague, as a person to have on our campus. For students, I can't thank you enough, both for your expertise and just the gift that you provide of presence with people and certainly with us tonight. We're going to have you back.
Thank you. It's
Because
a very heartwarming thing to
we don't have enough
compliment. It's making me
enough
blush.
time tonight to really unpack all the pieces that we want to get to. And so we're going to commit to bringing you back. You already knew that we were going to bring you back.
I did, but I didn't want to give it away.
But we're going to bring you back. And in the meantime, if there are questions that folks have, please post them in the chat or email us at deanofstudents@juniata.edu, and we'll carry on this conversation as we go forward. There's just so much that we want to provide and have available to students, and so many resources to take advantage of. It's just really good to know that we have you here with us.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate the compliment. It was nice spending a couple minutes having a conversation with you about what we can do on campus.
All right. Well, so now you get to go. It's not like The View where we can go to the commercial break.
Cut.
Right? Cut. So Jonathan will head out, and actually we're going to have a couple of our housing professionals come in. One of the stressors that students experience on campus is around roommates and their housing situation, and so it's a pleasure to invite a couple of our colleagues to join us and talk specifically about that. You're gonna have to kind of scoot around. We'll just
Scoot in.
we'll just jam in. Also, not like The View where they have a big set and camera people and what's the producer's name? I forget his name. Are we good to go? Oh, Abby, you've got to kind of move it a little bit.
If I come forward.
Abigail. And so it's really exciting to welcome, I know, right? Hey. It's really exciting to welcome Abigail Candelore and Calvin Bembry to join us.
I'm not getting any volume.
Oh,
Did you bump something by any
I
chance?
don't think so. We're told we're not getting any volume.
Is,
I-
possible.
I don't think
You
so.
move the wire.
Anything? Rob?
I'll reconnect and check.
Rob's going to reconnect. If that's the case, apologies. We'll go back in time if that's problematic. So hopefully you're hearing about us. That's just the HDMI.
Oh,
What if you press the mute button and press it again?
We're good to go. Okay, false alarm. Again, sorry for our poor production
killing
value.
us, Rob. Killing us.
So it's a pleasure to have Calvin Bembry, who's a member of our residential life staff, former Juniata student, kind of still in a master's program here, doing triple duty, also one of our football stars. So many roles to play.
Yes.
And Abigail, who coordinates residential life as assistant director of residential life, really to talk about that experience of living with somebody maybe who you've never met. Living with somebody in a smaller room than the room you had alone at home.
Yes.
And as I talk to students and look in the literature, it is one of the top 3 anxieties that students bring with them, this experience of living with another person.
Mm.
Can you talk a little bit about, how do we train our staff, the RAs who are kind of like on the floors with students, the CAs who are sort of mentoring staff, upper division staff? How do we train those folks to be ready for this experience that we know students are going to be undertaking
Yeah,
in the residence halls?
absolutely. So part of it is just preparing them for the fact that students do have these anxieties, and lots of it is they've gone through it before, right? These are upperclassmen students who have lived with someone before, probably a roommate that they didn't know, so they've gone through this experience. And part of it is we do a lot of training with them, both our resident assistants and our community advisors, to prepare them for helping people have tough conversations and helping them to be prepared to do things like roommate mediations if that's necessary. And also letting them know when to know situations need to be risen to another level. So if something's serious enough, getting professional staff involved so that we can help sort out the
Yeah.
situation. Yeah.
So it's week 4, right? And
Yes.
I always say the honeymoon lasts about a month.
Yes.
And so for a lot of our students, they've had a good roommate experience onboarding, they're in a good place, they sort of know what to expect from their roommate. For a few others, it's gotten stressful,
Mhm.
right? The little things maybe that were happening. Did you ever have a roommate who did maybe some little things? No names. But little things that start to get on your nerves. At first, they're like, "Oh, how quirky! Oh, it's
Listen, I
driving me
did.
nuts." How do we encourage roommates to sort of figure that stuff out?
So with that, as you said, now that it's in the 4 weeks, you want to be able to, I guess, be more honest and direct, more upfront, sooner rather than later. So with that, different things like say turn on the lights when trying to sleep or something like that. You want to be able to say something now more than waiting 3 months, 4 months down the road when you're still with this roommate and they're still doing it. Because at that point, it may be a little awkward trying to say something, and then the response would be, "Well, why didn't they just tell me sooner?" And so with that, and if it gets to that point, then maybe some roommates might not be able to express how they feel about it at that time, and so we encourage them talking to, as you said, our RAs, and who are, as we said, well trained to help mediate these type of conflicts, and you know move them to a better space, and possibly say something for them and things like that.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's easy to sort of talk about some of those things. It's hard sometimes, I think, for students to do them. Do you ever find with your peers that people sort of know what to do, but they're not really able to actualize that?
I think everyone's at least a little bit knows the proper way to conduct themselves when they're dealing with uh, people that they don't know very well. I think everyone has an idea of what proper manners are. If they don't, that's unfortunate. But um, at least speaking for myself, I always, act cordially towards a person if I don't know them. I try to be as upfront as possible because it only helps the relationship between the two of you.
Mm.
Whether even as a person, like I don't like to express how I feel about situations for the most part. I think that's just how I was raised, but I know when I need to because it's only going to work out for me later because it's only going to make me even more upset if I don't
Hmm.
and the action continues.
Mm.
So, really just getting it out of the way and just swallowing whatever ego or pride it may be, or just trying to,
Or awkwardness sometimes.
Yeah,
or
just
awkwardness.
awkwardness.
Because um, the worst thing that could happen is the person is kind of uh, you guys butt heads a little bit, and then it'll be fixed by someone above the both of you.
Hmm.
Just speak to the right people. Uh, but like, it's not going to hurt you at all to voice your opinion to a person politely and just say what makes you uncomfortable, um, what doesn't, and it'll only better the relationship the further it goes along.
And that's one of the things that I think, when you think about those people above you who can help solve that problem.
Yeah.
You know, even in my own home now, right? You know, sometimes I can be direct at work, but the feedback I get from my partner is, you're indirect. I don't know what you want. I don't know what your preference is, right? And so I'll say, oh, it'd be really nice if someone took out the trash. I'm really saying, take out the trash, right?
Yeah.
But I don't phrase it that way because I want to be nice. And so that's, you know, something that I've had to learn in living with someone is to be direct and sort of what their preference is versus my preference. And I think with students, sometimes there's that same process of learning about ourselves where we think we're doing the right thing and actually we're just not even communicating what that is. Do RAs, can they help students, like, can they coach them?
Yeah, absolutely. So like if you're thinking you're having trouble having that conversation with your roommate, your RA is absolutely like a pep talk person or a coach person to help you maybe walk through what the right way to say it is, right? So
the
like,
right words.
right, what are the right words to say? So maybe like it would be great if someone took out the trash, and like your RA might help you find the way to say, I would really appreciate if you would take out the, you know, help you be a little more direct or help you find the words to say that a little more directly.
I need an RA in my neighborhood.
Me too.
That sounds very direct to me. I think I would personally
You would be
get
able
that
to pick
message.
that up? One would think another person would. What about tools? I mean, so is there a document that roommates are filling out where they kind of, tell me about that?
Absolutely. We have our roommates, especially our first year students, who are required to fill out a roommate success plan, which is kind of like a roommate agreement. It's like a contract that two students who are living in a space together, or three or four, depending on if it's a triple or quad. But for most of our students, you know, the two of them will sit down and we have a document filled out that's kind of got set things that are things that most roommates should talk about. So things like cleanliness levels, noise levels, whether or not guests can come and go in the room, or what time is good for guests, whether or not they're allowed to spend the night. So those kinds of questions that helped prompt those conversations really early on. So at this point, most of our students have done those roommate agreements and had that conversation with their roommate and shared that information with their RA, who's got that to help prompt those conversations.
That's really helpful. And I would say, by my experience, students are late to the game in having that conversation or using that tool. Sometimes it becomes reactionary, right? Instead of proactive. And so encouraging students to take advantage of that moment. To kind of positively articulate what they want those expectations to be can be, I think, really valuable. Well, one of the other sort of issues that I've seen sometimes is, you know, we have campus expectations and policies, and sometimes roommates, you know, they aren't always acting in accordance with those, and that can be the source of the conflict. How can students sort of address something that's happening in their room that they're uncomfortable with without being kind of a narc on their roommates and getting them in trouble, but also using these resources? How does that work?
We have things like notice of concerns, and you could, like I said, talk to RAs or get in touch with one of the RLCs, and we could divvy up to who is basically in charge over the area, and that way you're not being the roommate's not being as direct to that roommate. They're able to go through someone higher up. That way that the RA or someone could check in on that roommate and see how things are going. Talk to them about just the different campus policies that we may have, and that in that way, it's not that a roommate notices like, oh, this roommate kind of ratted me out in a way. No, it's more of just someone coming in, checking in on you, see how things are going as you're, adjusting to the campus life and trying to make sure that, you have all the help that you need in order to adjust the right way that you can see success in both you and your roommate's lifestyles.
Yeah. I mean, that's so valuable, I think, for, students to have that level of trust. And I will say, living in a residence hall as a postgraduate career, it's God's work. And so bless you both for that. For a student, it's a great learning experience. Take advantage of it. And I lived in residence halls for a dozen years and enjoyed every minute of it. But, there wasn't a moment when a student would come and share in confidence, this is happening in my room and it makes me uncomfortable. And I would reach out to that roommate and the other roommate, and I'd say, you know what? It's a small hall and people talk. And I've heard that this is happening in your room. And 100% of the time, the student would say, it is a small hall. People talk. I mean, there was never sort of that pressure that it only could have come from the roommate. And so I think we use those moments or that leverage sometimes to help compel students to act to their own best angels. Is that a good way to say it?
Yes.
Well, do you have any advice for, parents or families for whom, they're hearing distress on the other end of a text or a phone call, and they don't know what to do? They want to solve this problem for their son or their daughter. What advice do you have for them?
Yeah. So, parents are absolutely one of the greatest supports for students. They're the mom and dad are the people they call when they're having trouble. And so, being a really good listener is an awesome first step, because your students are coming to you in their time of need. And then knowing what things that they're able and they have the capability and the tools to work through themselves, and then knowing when they need a little more help. So there's, some things where parents can make the judgment of like, you need a little encouragement, or like, I need to point you to the right resource on campus. So, saying to your child, like, have you talked to your RA about that? Or, have you visited the Office of Residential Life, and pointing them in the right direction, but, letting them, work to solve their own problems. And then sometimes they're, students are in over their head and they need a little more help. And maybe they aren't realizing that. And so that's a great opportunity to connect with some of our professional staff on campus through our campus life office, connecting with our residential life coordinators, or, just calling our main office line. And like you just talked about, so we have some ways of connecting to students that aren't necessarily, your mom called and wants to make sure you're okay, right? But rather saying, hey, Davion, like, how have you been adjusting? Have you joined any clubs? Are you liking your classes? Right? We have ways of checking in without saying, mom and dad called and want to make sure you're okay. Or,
even though we welcome mom and dad.
We do. But, parents are partners in helping make sure our students are successful and that they're doing all right. And so if you're identifying that a student needs help and, isn't able to find the right path, or needs a little push, sometimes we can do that around the back.
Well, the other piece, and we've kind of affirmed RAs and sort of their critical role, the importance, and for those of you who are out there kind of thinking about growth opportunities or development opportunities and job opportunities on campus, the RA position is a great role and responsibility and job for students to think about as they progress through their Juniata experience.
We would love them to apply.
But really they live right there with students. Part of their fundamental role is building community and getting to know their residents. They're literally getting paid, not enough, but they're getting paid to do that work.
Yes.
And, I'll risk and ask Davion, I think RAs on our campus are well respected and well regarded for their, their sort of effort and expertise and the quality of care that they give.
Well respected, and if not, definitely feared. You don't want trouble with your RA for the most part. They know where you live, for one.
That's funny.
No, they're nice people. They wouldn't have the job if they couldn't work with the people that they're have authority over. For the most part, they're all there to help. They're always trying to do their best to look out for you. They have a job to do, for one, so they're going to do it to the best of their ability, because it's the benefits that come with being an RA are, some of the best that you could get at school. So I think they'll always take their job seriously. They'll take your concerns seriously, and they'll do what they can to the best of their ability.
And I'll keep pushing you to become an RA. But anyway,
I'll be making that application.
Different conversation for a different day. I guess, the reality is that we'll have some students who things just don't work out in their current environment, and they'll need to move. Is that something that, what's our approach to thinking about or helping students figure out when that right time is, and then facilitating a move
Mhm.
if a move is in the works.
Yeah, so I think if we're having a student who's having a conversation with us about wanting to move, our first step is a triage process, right? So we're assessing with that student, where are you at right now? Is this a really urgent need? You need to be out of your room tonight, and we'll get you somewhere safe so that you can sleep tonight, because we
Yeah.
want you to be able to be a successful student and go to class and be engaged in your community tomorrow. Or is this something that you're okay with? Right, we'll make it happen by next week, right? We'll look at our options and we'll be a little more thorough in making your move happen. But kind of that triage process of where are you at, and where do we need to get you? So
Yeah, we want to move through the steps, but certainly students in distress, we want to lower that level,
Yes.
that anxiety level,
Right.
because it can be huge. Well, I like I said, I think that the role of the residential liberal arts college, that housing piece, is so fundamentally intrinsic to the work that happens here, to the education that happens here, to the overall experience that happens here. And I thank you for being educators on our campus and working with our students to sort of make it a reality for them, because these are the skills that they will carry with them through a lifetime in their personal relationships, in their workplace
Yeah.
environments, in their community engagement, in all of those places and spaces. The interpersonal kind of dynamics that students are shaping for themselves, and the skills that manage those things, are critical. And that's what sets a Juniata graduate apart, from folks who don't have the luxury of those experiences. And so, thank you. It's important work, and sometimes goes unrecognized. I'm
Absolutely.
very gesticular tonight. Well, we will go ahead and thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for
Appreciate
having
your
us.
advice and insight, and have a great night.
You too.
Thank you.
All
Thank you.
right.
Good night.
And we'll continue. I'm old. My eyes. I'm like trying to see the clock on that. It's like 7:45.
It's 42.
The time is flying.
Yeah, we talk a lot.
And I'm going to push out a little bit so that we can crowd in a little bit better. But I'll invite our next guests to come on in. Naomi is here with us. Oh, good. We can spread out a little bit. So Naomi is here with us, and you are the planner of Mountain Day.
I
Right?
did. I
the
did.
queen of Mountain
I
Day.
did plan Mountain Day. I had a small committee, but yes, I was the only student who knew the date this
Oh
year.
my God.
So it was
That's
kinda fun.
so I never want to know the day.
Really?
I never want to know, because the essential beauty of Mountain Day is that it can be any day. And so, when if I asked you when is Mountain Day, you'd say,
It's tomorrow.
it's tomorrow.
Mountain
Day
Day
is
always tomorrow.
The hope springs eternal. And so I never want to know when it is.
So technically, I have you to thank for not having anything to look forward to until fall break now.
You're so welcome.
Well, Naomi is the president of JAB,
Mhm.
the Juniata Activities Board. And as a senior,
Yes.
right,
Yes.
has been involved in kind of shaping the co-curricular environment for students and providing them with programming and socialization and community development opportunities now for 4 years.
Mhm.
And you're at your peak. You're at the
I know. I was thinking about that since I am a senior. I was like, wow.
I know, right?
So this is coming to an end at some point.
And and I don't want to overstate it. I think JAB is just so essential to what happens
I
at
agree.
Juniata. And really the job that you're doing is administrative, it's coordinative, it is about managing budgets. I mean, you have tens of thousands of dollars that you're using to bring in programming, kind of nationwide quality acts to give students something to do almost every weekend night and many nights throughout the week. And you're a student. You're carrying a full-time load. I just am amazed. So thank you for the work. Thank you for being here, and we just appreciate it so much. How did you get your start? How did you?
So to be totally honest, I found out about Juniata through a family friend who was here. She played basketball. Grew up together in my hometown. So I came up to visit while I was a junior/senior in high school. I had an amazing tour. I love the small feel. I'm very much of a small town kind of person. I do better in environments where I can do group study more comfortably. So I just fell in love with Juniata, and I found out about the activities board, and I said, I want to be a part of the activities board. So then come fall of my freshman year, we had Lobster Fest. I went straight for the jab table. I went straight for the jab table. There are so many tables out there at Lobster Fest. I went straight for that table. I became a general member my first year. Kind of funny. One of the students who graduated this past year, he kind of saw a little bit of potential in me, and he invited me along to the planning conference that we go to every fall. And then the next year I interviewed to be on the executive board, and that's where I started my official position at JAB. So,
That's so amazing. That's so amazing. So, that invites a question, right? What has been your favorite entertainment event at Juniata? You have? Can you narrow it down?
Favorite entertainment event? Does the Black Excellence Dinner count?
Well, that's kind of a club activity,
Yeah,
but it's certainly entertaining. What is it? Tell us a little bit more about it, because it's one of my favorite events too.
The Black Excellence Dinner was it was in February. It was obviously Black History Month. It was a celebration of in the title Black Excellence, this to celebrate the success and the feats of Black people in history. It celebrated what the ethnic group here at Juniata is working on and trying to achieve. And it was just kind of a moment for everyone to get together. And really, it felt like people were just trying to push each other through and, support each other. And it was a time to dress up and feel nice about yourself.
Oh, yeah.
And, everyone was so in awe of everyone around them. And they just came together and appreciated each other for being there. And it was just a good time.
It's food. It's
I got
culture.
to DJ, so
Okay.
it was good music.
It's music.
Right. The food was great. Everyone brought in, if you wanted to, you brought in a dish. I didn't because I didn't.
I helped on the eating side.
Same.
No, I did bring in cupcakes.
It's an important side
I
to
bring
be
cupcakes.
on.
That's oftentimes what I can contribute.
I may make banana pudding this year.
Well, I remember Step Africa was a
Yes,
group that came
was
in.
Very fun.
And it was, Step
It was
Africa is a
awesome.
national act. It is about stepping and culture and history and performance. And it just is dramatic in terms of the way that it sort of helped shift my worldview and my understanding. And it was entertaining and it was educational. And I know that came out
That
of
did come from
JAB.
Yep, and we actually met them at the convention that we go to in the fall. NACA.
National Association of Campus Activities.
Yes, Buffalo, New York, every fall in October. It's a little cold.
And you go for like 5 days.
Yep, over fall break.
I've been to NACA, and it is a joy, but it is like so intense because you go to these showcases, you see like 30 different acts.
Yes, all at once.
In like 3 hours, and you have like 4 of those a day. And then you're choosing from that, maybe a dozen things to bring back to campus.
We love Step Africa because they even allowed our students to come up on stage to learn how to step too, which was, I think, the best part. We got some really cool videos and pictures of that. So that was really
How
fun.
do you decide as a group? So we send a delegation, it's JAB members. I think we've tried to invite some other campus programming groups to go and continue to kind of grow that group. But how do you decide? Because literally you see 300 different national acts. How do you figure out who to bring?
So typically what we do is when we go, we take a certain number of our executive board. We take our president, usually. We take our marketing director, because there's lots of marketing kind of workshops there, and you kind of learn new ideas. We bring our madrigal chair. So madrigal is our winter dance, our formal. It's super fun. So we look for kind of like a DJ or something like that, or just ideas to bring, mainly for madrigal. And then we bring our festival / Springfest chair.
Springfest.
Springfest is always super fun. Springfest is like our music festival type event in the spring. We bring typically 3 to 4 acts, and it's just on the quad. We have food trucks, typically yard games, musical acts, food. It's so much fun. I love it. One of my favorite events.
Okay, so Springfest is the event. But since Black Excellence doesn't count.
It's your favorite javelin.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Because I was in it.
if it were me, we bring all spoken word
Yes.
artists. I
We
love
have
spoken
crossovers,
word.
Yeah.
I love dance. I love performance. I love singing. I love it all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's really nice to just know that on any weekend night, I just need to sort of check the Twitter feed,
Mhm.
you know, check the social media presence, and there's going to be something on campus that I can
Yeah.
commit to
Always.
that's fun and, you know, maybe pushes my comfort zones or maybe just hits my sweet spot.
Yep. Gotta love a good bingo.
Bingo's
Good
great.
bingo night. Good trivia night.
I'm excellent at trivia. I've been a jab trivia winner, or at least in my group. Probably not because of my own talents. Well, you know, so jab is one group
Mhm.
that does just a boatload
Oh,
of
yeah.
our campus programming. But you talked about Umoja that does the Black Excellence Dinner. There are other groups. And students were exposed to those at Lobster Fest.
Yes.
Many of those groups are starting to meet this week.
Mhm.
You know, what about students who didn't make it to Lobster Fest, or, you know, they feel like ultimately the groups that they signed up for aren't the groups for them? Is it too late to get involved in?
It's never too late to get involved in a club. So along with job, I also am a worker in our campus life office. So that kind of evolved this year. So it's residential life along with student engagement. So you can always email the student SECA is what it's called.
SECA
SECA
at
at juniata.edu and say, hey, I didn't make it to Lobster Fest, or hey, I'm interested in this specific type of club or this specific club. And we can always give you the contact information for the president of that club and send you along and say, hey, this is the contact. They're more than welcome to have you, talk to you, because we are, like we said, like a really small knit community here. We support each other always. So if you want to join a club in the middle of the semester, at the beginning of spring semester, any club will be happy to have you, no matter what.
I mean, it's really also kind of just follow the signs, you know? So you walk across campus, there's like a 1,000 signs. There's a proliferation of signs. It's almost like you become sign blind.
Yes, yes.
But if you
So
look
many
for an
signs.
event that appeals to you and go to that event,
Always.
you know, club members are there.
Mhm.
You can express some interest and say, hey,
Yeah.
do you have a weekly or every other week meeting?
Exactly.
I'd like to come and check it
Mhm.
out. And suddenly you're on a committee or you're a part of the general membership. And, you know, I think on campus it's very common for students to flow in and to flow out. And
Mhm.
it's a busy academic time. Club attendance, you know, kind of contracts a little bit. Everyone expects that. At the beginning of the semester, there's more. But I think that there's a lack of pressure for students to just give it a try and check things out. Well, you know, to that end, how many clubs should a student join?
So I typically ask whoever's asking me, like, how many credits they're taking, how hard are they? Because I think it's not really a certain number. It's based on how busy you are and how much you're willing to give to a club, to an extracurricular outside of your academic career. So I usually say like 1 to 2 you should really focus in on. And then once you focus in on them, and whether you choose, yes, this is definitely for me, or no, I need to step back from this, that's when you can then reevaluate it. Because I think by putting more effort into 1 or 2 rather than spreading your effort out across like 5 or 6 will really help you narrow it down and really help you find your true passion, rather than trying to spread yourself so thin and saying, I just can't do any involvement. You know what I mean? So, and like we said, people flow in and out of clubs. Sometimes it's hard to say no. It's hard to step back, especially like if you're trying to establish yourself on campus. But no one here is ever going to say, why'd you quit? We're going to support you and say, I understand your workload's hard, or I understand you're going through something. You're always welcome to come back to us at a later point. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah. Are you in any clubs? No, it does.
It does. It's a club.
Yeah, it's great.
I am being told that I need to join Plexus too, because good old April.
April Wells, we love her.
She's great.
Yeah, she's mama. So Umoja, Plexus, now, you know, I'll probably be recruited to another one. Lasso I signed up for at Lobster Fest.
What's Lasso?
Yeah. I know L is Latin.
Latin America Student Organization.
Oh, I think that changed names from last
There's
year.
been evolution of
Uh-huh.
Latin American clubs on campus, but that one is headed by Genesis Diaz
Oh.
and Laura Goldstein.
Love.
Yes.
Yeah, the first meeting I missed because it was last week.
During our time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a part of men's group, and men's group
Yes.
meets at this time too.
I
I mean,
It
that's the
happens.
challenge, right? You're
Yeah.
trying to navigate your way. And so, for me, it's like, how do I stay connected to that group if I can't attend the meetings? And there are ways to do that through the email
Exactly.
list or online or checking in with members. And so even if students do find that, they have a conflict, they can still be involved in the club. Maybe that they aren't so central to. And for me, I try to go with a couple clubs that make sense for me because they align with my interests or values. And then every year I try to check out a few things that I know nothing about or am bad at. Like I was in the orchestra for a semester.
I remember
right?
that.
And
yes.
it was horrible.
Well, I mean,
But thankfully I had Sarah Aurora to point at me when I was supposed to crash the cymbals.
Yes.
So I found
I did watch that scenario go down from the audience.
I found a way to hopefully sort of ameliorate that. I've joined the outdoors persons group. I've learned how to survive a winter night in a nest of dried leaves.
It's important.
It may be. I almost would rather die. But there it is. It's fun to sort of stretch your wings a little bit and have fun. Well, do you have any other advice in terms of how students engage with the campus social life or take advantage of some of the activities on campus?
I would think my advice would be just keep an eye out on the announcements, to all the posters.
Read your emails.
Read your emails first off. That's a very important thing when you go to college. Read your emails. But no matter where you look, who you talk to, there's always something going on campus. You don't have to go to everything, obviously, because there are tests and academic life and other things that go on. But if you see something that's going to be really interesting, it's not going to take that much time, maybe hour and a half, 2 hours tops of your night that you don't even have to be there the whole time for, and just go. Take a mental break from what you're doing and just walk away from it and have a little bit of fun and then come back to it. Because I think that's what I like about JAB, especially in a lot of other organizations on campus, is we don't expect you to be there for the entire event. We just want to give you an outlet to step away from what you're doing, step away from the stress of school and life and whatever. Come paint a mug, come play around a bingo, go play laser tag on the quad, whatever we're doing. We just want you to have a break and then go back to what you're doing.
And so, what I come back to is sometimes I will hear students say there's nothing to do.
Which is completely not
There's
true.
always something to do. And it's okay to be bored. And it's okay to sort of live in that space. But the reality is there's something to do.
There's always something.
And students, I say, should seek out those opportunities to sort of engage with what interests them. Yeah. Well, Naomi, thank you so much for your work on campus. It means so much. It creates an environment here where students feel like they belong and they can be accepted and they can express themselves and they can have the connections that are so meaningful to their success. And I know you work your guts out to make that happen. So
I'm happy to do it. I love it.
I can only imagine your schedule.
Oh, yeah. You probably don't want to look at my schedule.
See, it's all about learning those self-management skills.
Yes.
Right?
We love them.
You can always
love a good
balance
planner.
things a little bit better, balance things a little bit more. All right. Well, thank you.
Hope you guys have a good night.
All right.
Thank you.
And I think we are close to our time. I'm like trying to sketch this out. 7:58. And so
Questions.
any questions? Two. I pushed through two chats. One, Jana Philpott has created a parent Facebook group for the class of 2023 parents, and the link is in the chat. You can find it there. And I will share that we're looking at the development of just a parents Facebook group. And so more details about that will follow soon. Marcia, you asked, where do faculty post their courses syllabus? And I will say two things. One, almost always in the Moodle.
Well, yeah, it's usually if your professor has a Moodle page set up, some don't.
And that's a course system. Students log in, their classes are there, and class materials and some sort of activities, sometimes grades, are posted in the Moodle. I just call it the Moodle.
Why the?
I don't know. It's like the Ohio State University.
Not they. I always thought people just said that, and until I looked it up, it's really in
So
the
it's
name.
the Moodle, and the core syllabus is there.
Otherwise, it's on the P drive. So the P drive is like a on-campus server that you have to first go to TSC, our Technology Services Center, and they'll show you how to do it. And you connect to the server, and then you'll have a whole bunch of academic files with all the professors, and they have different folders in their file for you to go into and look at all the things that they have provided. The syllabus will be there if they don't have a mobile page.
All right. So those are the questions that we got. If you have others, please send those into Dean of Students at juniata.edu. We will get out responses and answers to those. I want to thank all of you for attending. I know we have a sort of a small but growing audience, but we just truly appreciate your engagement, your willingness to spend the time with us. We look forward to next week. And some of the guests and content that we're going to provide really around the first year curriculum and the relationship that students have and can develop with faculty members as they identify folks that they want to be mentored with or do undergraduate research with or study abroad with. And so we're going to have some great dialogue about that next week. But we thank you for your time tonight and wish you well. It is truly a great day to be an Eagle. Caw-caw.
I love that.
Will you give a caw-caw? Caw-caw.
Caw-caw.